Who are they? What do I mean by that question? Well, over the years, a classical conspiracy theory or story would be about some people getting together and conspiring to do something nasty or something unwanted. And they would be very clever, and they would cover all their bases, and they would practically get away with it, but somebody would notice some anomaly or something was wrong, and then they would figure it out, and they would know the real truth, and go against the consensus and so on. You know the drill. Well, who are they that everybody keeps talking about? What I mean by that is the elite, the neoliberals, the neocons, the Tea Partiers, Antifa, the Proud Boys, the Boogaloos, the socialists, the commies, the Davos crowd, George Soros, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the government, the deep state, the CIA, the FBI, the police state, the Chinese, the Russians. You get my drift, right? Okay, so who are these people? Well, firstly, I'd like to say that they're just people, like you and I. They were brought up in a certain situation, they were educated in a certain way, they found a career or a profession, they went into it wanting to succeed, they climbed ladders or they competed well, and eventually found themselves in a position of power or control. For us, it's much more limited, but for some people, they have a lot more power and control. And all along, they're absorbing a culture, a way of thinking, various narratives, and they structure their identity based on these various narratives, and it all becomes very important to them. Without getting into all the social signaling and the cognitive dissonance and the cognitive biases and all of these kinds of things. They've developed a certain sense of self, a certain consciousness of self, a meta-consciousness about themselves. And they fit into a certain cage, bubble, or castle environment. And it's all very important to them. And they've learned that they're good people, and they're doing things for the right reasons, noble reasons, righteous reasons, ethical reasons, or at least they've told themselves that. One can imagine what Hitler might have thought in the beginning. He might have drank his own Kool-Aid and believed for a while that he was on the verge of creating heaven on earth, a society of super beings that would make sure that human society operated within the parameters of great nature in the right way, all the mystical forces coming together with industry and science and technology. You know the drill, right? So if Bill Gates thinks that, he had an inkling at one time that a pandemic would be the worst thing that could possibly happen, never mind nuclear holocaust or climate change or the sixth extinction, but let's just focus on that. And he says, oh my God, geez, I got it. Melinda, I figured it out, man. The biggest threat to humanity, to our way of life, to the system of ours, this game of ours, this thing of ours, is a pandemic. What's going to happen then? We've got to do something. And so he focuses some of his resources, a lot of his resources, into research and foundations and NGOs and science organizations and universities around the world to game out the scenario of a pandemic, a coronavirus pandemic, and get ahead of it, get ahead of that game. We got to know what we got to do when the time comes. So they spend a lot of money and they do a lot of experiments all over the place, because you can do certain things in China that you can't do in the United States, certain things in Israel that you can't do in Europe, and so on and so forth. It's a global effort. And in fact, over the years, the past 10 years in particular, well, since, 2015, they've done a lot of these game scenarios, game-theoretic kind of. Get in the war room. What happens if Russia attacks? If there's an EMP, China cyber attack, whatever. And they plan for these things. And they build tools and technology and software to address this crisis when it comes. And then when it comes, well, they're not really ready for it because they haven't thought things through down to the minutia of Joe Blow on the street and the global economic system and geopolitics and all this stuff, culture wars. But they've figured out that they're going to have a vaccine. So that much they know. And if they don't have it, the world's going to die. See, these people are just people. They're not perfect. And even though, because they're rich and powerful, or just powerful, or they think they're rich, or richer, or more powerful, they have more discernment, more capability, more bandwidth, more resources, more people to help them, more money to invest. They think, I'm probably pretty right about the way the world should be. And if I can just keep control of things, things will work out. And if they don't, I'll fix it because I'm nimble. I'll adapt and improvise. But in fact, they're just a bunch of people. And they live in their community and their society. And they motivate one another. And they establish groupthink and fall into groupthink. All these people in the media, right? These people that read from the script. Do you really think they're that smart? Have they read any more than you have? Maybe. Do they understand in depth the things they're talking about? Maybe. I doubt it. But they're getting a pretty healthy paycheck to read from the script and look authoritative. Same with the pundits and the revolving door between corporations, global corporations, consulting companies, and government all around the world, and finance and banking. The so-called Davos crowd, or the Bilderbergs, whatever group you want to come up with. The soccer moms. They have their ideas and they're always doing their war games and they're always playing to win. And the powerful people, they're closer to the money, right? They have more access to bankers and fund managers and hedge funds and investors and people to run campaigns and public relations and advertising and advertisers. They just have so much more resources. So when they put things into gear to get ready because of the Twin Towers were attacked, the towers have fallen, somebody's to blame. We've done a lot of war games. We don't like Saddam Hussein anymore after we, fed him a bunch of resources when he was fighting Iran, after we propped him up. We don't like the Taliban anymore after we gave them a lot of resources to fight the Russians. It's all a big game. So they've gamed it out. And they're raring to go. I mean, we have the scenario, we've done this. We've sat in the war room with all the generals, all the scientists, whatever, and we've gamed it out, and we're ready to go. And we've developed technology and hardware and software. And we've done a lot of engineering and a lot of planning. It's all in place. There's nothing mysterious about it. Oh, and by the way, we have the tools to run this thing. We didn't see it coming. Or we did, but we didn't know it was going to happen now. But we're ready. And then there's a momentum to it, right? Once the lies start coming out and people have decided we're going to do this thing, it's hard to put the brakes on it because now everybody's involved and their careers and their paychecks depend on it happening. So they can't just stop. And so once they realize they're in a quagmire and that they're fully committed, then the propaganda machine kicks in and they really have to program the masses to go along with it. Of course, they depend on that all the time, but now it's even more important. So the media falls into gear, in line, and they start disseminating the memes and the messages. And there's a lot of black ops in public relations and propaganda as well. You know, it's coming from troll farms now and so on, but before it was coming from other sources. Deep throat and whatnot. But anyway, it's in gear, everybody's starting to believe in it. Then once everybody believes in it, cognitive dissonance sets in, and you can't just one day say, oh, I might have been wrong about that, George, Billy, Sarah. Maybe the war is wrong. And by then, if you say that, you're a traitor. You know? So you're stuck. You have to be a patriot. You have to wear the yellow ribbon. You have to support the troops. You have to wave the flag. Because if you don't, you're going to be ostracized and treated like a fool or an idiot or a conspiracy theorist. So what's my point? I could go on and on. There's so many examples. Now we're in this COVID-19 thing, and you can see how it kind of stumbled into the inevitable. And it all flows from the system's logic, from the operating system, from the beliefs, from the narratives that are already installed in each and every one of us. And these rich and powerful people are no different from you and me. It's just that they're in a different scenario, in a different narrative, and they have a lot more power than you and me. So, what's the solution? Well, I'm setting up a studio now. I'm going to talk to Joe Blow from the street about these things, because I don't have the capacity to do what other people do on the web who are a lot smarter than me and have access to smart people and networks, about what we can do in our communities to disengage from the momentum of this bullshit that's going to kill us, that's going to terminate the system. And that involves Game B-like efforts on a local level, thinking globally in the sense that you are very aware and concerned about the environment, the oceans, climate change, the sixth extinction. These things are really important. There's no habitat on Mars or Venus. And if there's no habitat for us here, don't think we're going to engineer one that easily. There are many solutions that, if implemented right now, would solve everything. But because of these sick pathological narratives, we're incapable of getting there. And also because of the profit motive and the financial system and the way we deal with business. If it doesn't pay you an extra 20 bucks, it doesn't make you money, you're not going to do it, right? Because the incentives are not in line with doing it in another way. So the solution is saying, as much as I can within my community, I'm going to change this story, this narrative, and I'm going to endeavor to build game B-like solutions and projects in my community. And as much as possible, because I can't completely exit the system, I'm going to boycott the evil crap that's going on. That's literally going to destroy your grandchildren's future. That's what we do. And we do it in community, within our communities, together, on whatever scale we can. And we bring to bear our own personal skills and abilities, hopefully charm and humor, as well as creativity, audacity, will, persistence, because that's the only solution, my friends. Voting for somebody is not going to help, because the political system has been captured by moneyed interests, period. The global corporate game is about generating shareholder value, profits, and nothing else. Even though there are movements within business to be more ethical and socially conscious, it's never going to work. The whole system has to be turned inside out and regenerated into something more sustainable and healthier. It's about sustainability and health. The health of the environment, our ecosystem, and our own health. And look, even if you're Guy McPherson and you think we have a few years, what's the point? We're in a species planetary hospice, and the best we can do is be good to each other. Even then, don't you think it's more fun and interesting to struggle and fight, to beat these gamers at their own game by saying, I'm not going to do it anymore. Screaming out the window, I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore? Can you imagine the thrill? If, Jesus, 1% of the population did that, how exciting that would be. Even if the whole thing blows up. What a gas. If you can demonstrate within the system that you can develop and create a whole new system within your community, and then the guys go, well, we can make a buck reporting on that, writing about that, making a TV series about that, a documentary film about that. And pretty soon people start to say, gosh, we could do something like that too. And maybe the next war, the one they're trying to gin up with Iran or China, the United States. Other countries don't do that so much. If the people in the States say, no, my son's not going, my daughter's not going. No, I'm more patriotic than you, because I'm going to say no to that bullshit. I'm not going to spend my blood and treasure and my time, my precious time. Because if your son lives to be 100, his life's still going to feel too short. So sending him off to China or somewhere in the Pacific to get blown up, well, it's kind of a waste, isn't it? Think of the potential of every human being if they lived in a decent cage, bubble, or castle, and they could develop, and they could have that growth mindset. Oh my God, can you imagine if we all weren't just fucking wasted? The war on drugs, it's wasting us. There's still demand for all those drugs because we're sad and we're sick. You got to admit it, man. There's more to life. We have to discover what is more to life. What that is. That's what we have to do. And these people that I follow and read, these books I read and whatnot, that I'll post on globehackers.com, and eventually I'm creating another project called Cospelon. You know, if you're interested, you can go there and look. If you want to see the shit show at Globe Hackers on Facebook, you can go, because I pepper it with some wisdom. But you can look at the New York Times and NPR and the CBC and RT and Japan Times and whatever. See what the shit show's doing, what the players are up to. God bless them, man. They're just doing what they think is right. But they happen to be wrong. And we have to redirect their resources and their energies in the right way. The only way we can do that, we have to get together en masse. So let's forget about the old scenarios and the old stories, okay? This isn't a revolution like any other revolution. We don't have to brand it or label it socialist or communist or libertarian or democratic or republican or whatever the other ones are in all the other countries. This has to be an international consciousness-raising thing. It can't just be weird people like me from the United States with new miracles. You need your Koreans and your Bangladeshis, right? Your Kenyans, Ugandans, Mozambikians. Your Finns, your Swedes, yeah? Your Portuguese, and your wannabe Portuguesers. So bit by bit around the world, we gotta start playing a different game, folks. So we gotta tell the players right now, you play our game or fuck the hell off. Bouliam tea, out.